I made the decision to travel by road specifically because I wanted to see what traders and movers of goods and services go through at the borders, because I have not particularly experienced this side of the border before. Incidentally, as I shared earlier, we spent almost over 4 hours, at the border crossing from Ghana. And this is because we got protocol treatment. So you can imagine now how you suffered, You look at your neighbors, what they are doing, and what they are bringing from outside, and you specialize in that. And those are things that we have to look at. Most importantly, to protect our economy and to protect jobs in our economy. Well, I will repeat this, that there is no profitable investment venture than agri-investment. Agri-investment is the only investment that you are assured of over 100% returns when you put your money in there. It is only agriculture investment that gives you that.
Hi guys, welcome to the Africa Discourse channel, and we are still at Abidjan and we are having the conversation on financing agribusiness in Africa. So I have with me Honorable Dr. Peter Boamah, and he leads presidential initiatives in agriculture and agribusiness in Ghana. I want to have a conversation with him on regional collaboration, specifically what Ghana is doing to collaborate with other countries in Africa, especially in the agribusiness. But before I start, I would leave you to do more introduction because I don't want to butcher the introduction. So, Doc, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, I saw how you tactically avoided my last name, Otokunor. You didn't want to bite your tongue.
I didn't want to.
So my name is Dr. Peter Boamah Otokunor, and I'm the Director of Presidential Initiatives in Agric and Agribusiness at the Office of the President, Republic of Ghana. Okay. And I'm an Agric economist and a financial economist as well, and a player, a farmer. And so that's all there is about Dr. Peter Boamah Otokunor.
Okay, so before we get into the agribusiness conversation, earlier when you were having your conversation, you spoke about your travel experience. We also came by road and we kind of experienced a bit of what you experienced. I just want to get your feedback on how your experience was traveling from Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire by road.
Well, I made the decision to travel by road specifically because I wanted to see what traders and movers of goods and services go through at the borders, because I have not particularly experienced this side of the border before. And so I discussed with my team that let's do this trip by road. Incidentally, as I shared earlier, we spent almost over 4 hours, at the border crossing from Ghana to Ivory Coast, which is just less than 100 meters. In fact, it's not even up to, it's about 50 meters, crossing from the no man's land, from Ghana through no man's land to Ivory Coast, and it was almost over 4.5 hours. And this is because we got protocol treatment, protocol arrangement, somebody leading us to fast track the processes both in Ghana and in Ivory Coast. So you can imagine now how you suffered. I'm sure you spent over 6 hours. But it's a big problem because, we talk about regional integration, we talk about movements of goods and services, particularly as regards, agriculture finance. Now, the reason why we are not able to perform and accumulate enough capital is because we don't do business amongst ourselves. Meanwhile, doing business amongst ourselves would be the surest and the faster way of building, capital so that we are able to finance the agribusiness on the continent. So the gap of $65 billion is not far-fetched. It's actually within the continent, but it is more easier to trade with Europe, to trade with the West, than to trade with ourselves. Yeah. And that is something that regulatory mechanisms and policy regimes is supposed to eliminate, so that there will be free movement of goods and services to make it easy to move agro products across the borders to feed other industries. Because if you look at Ghana and Ivory Coast and even Togo and even Burkina Faso, if you look at our competitive advantage in producing various food crops and industrial crops, you would realize that apart from cocoa and a few others, we have advantage and capacity in various different crops. And if we are really allowing free trade to build capacity for the ones that our neighbors are growing, we would be able to take advantage of the sub-regional markets. And so it was good news that the African Continental Free Trade came into being. But I believe that we can never realize the dream of a free movement or free trade on the continent if we do not remove these barriers, at the various border areas. And so it's something that was quite revealing, and it's something that my report would capture to get the president to work on. Just a few days ago, the minister in charge of trade and agribusiness made a call to AfCFTA to work at trying to remove those barriers, because it's becoming very difficult for free movement of goods and services, and that it does not augur well for what we want to achieve with the development of agribusiness on the continent.
All right. I think I was about to ask you that, so what would the government do about it, or what policies? But I think you've touched on it. So now let's take it back home. I have heard a lot of government policies that your government is coming up with to help support farmers. Which of them are you most proud of, and which of them would also help us to be able to easily work with other regions, like let's say Cote d'Ivoire, for us to be able to trade and then expand in agribusiness? Recently we had the conversation where Burkina Faso has limited how they are going to export some of their goods and agricultural products to Ghana. And we realize that it's causing like problems in our market. So what are some of the policies or plans your government has in place to be able to make sure we are able to trade freely like that?
Okay, so some of the policies that I'm proud of, I will come to that. But it is also very important that in the midst of free trade, trade liberation on the continent and even beyond the continent, we look at the importance of some level of protectionism of the local industries and the local farmers. Because if you are not careful and you don't put regulatory measures in place, and that's why I said there's a need for product specialization. And so you look for an area you specialize. You look at your neighbors, what they are doing, and what they are bringing from outside, and you specialize in that. And those are things that we have to look at, most importantly, to protect our economy and to protect jobs in our economy. And so Burkina Faso may be doing that. Ivory Coast may be doing somewhat in some other areas. But Ghana, most importantly, must invest in the productive sectors of the economy so that we are able to produce enough and be able to compete. Because the thing about global economy is that it's about competition. If you don't build capacity to compete in a certain area, you are outwitted and you have to import.
Yeah.
And the food system dynamics is changing so quickly that if you don't define a culture, you don't define a food culture and develop the systems to respond to the culture, then you would be lagging behind. And so those are the things that President Mohammed's policies in agriculture seeks to address. And so I'm sure you must have heard agriculture for economic transformation being, trumpeted over the years.
Yeah.
The agriculture for economic transformation is envisioned to use agriculture as the key driver to turn the economic fortunes of Ghana. And so the macroeconomic expectations of the country is being driven by agriculture. And so there are three principles or pillars that drives this vision. And the first pillar is feeding Ghana. So feeding Ghana, you are looking at the food crops regime and the food systems, how you are able to produce the crops that would meet the food needs of the people. And under Feed Ghana, we are targeting about 7 food crops. And so we have maize, we have rice, we have soybean, we have sorghum, then we have tomato, onion, and pepper. Okay. The okra and all those other vegetables are there, but the program seeks to drive these 7 specific food needs, because every single table in Ghana, breakfast, lunch, and supper, has tomato, onion, pepper, maize, and so and rice. And so it's important that you're able to have scale production in this food sector so that you are able to meet the demands. And so the Feed Ghana program is targeting these various areas. Under the Feed Ghana program, there are a number of initiatives that government is putting in place to upscale this. So the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, that is the lead regulatory agency and the policy agency for Feed Ghana, is doing a number of interventions. Then from my desk as the head of presidential initiatives at the Office of the President, is also looking at a number of initiatives to upscale our returns in the Feed Ghana program. And so we have what we call the DOBIDI initiative. I'm sure you know what DOBIDI means. Farm and eat.
Yeah.
And so essentially we have discovered that most of the farmers in Ghana are smallholder farmers, and they produce small scale. Sometimes they don't even know where to go and sell it. In fact, they struggle to get their own money to go and buy the inputs to farm. And so their challenge mainly is input access, input quality, and input financing. They don't have the money to go and get the inputs. And when they even have the money to go and get the input, sometimes they don't get the quality inputs that they need. And so the DOBIDI initiative is trying to de-risk their efforts by giving them the inputs so that they don't have to bother themselves with the access, with their affordability and the quality. And when you provide that for them and they cultivate, we will recover through the output so that the smallholder farmers are not taken out of the cropping season because maybe they don't have any income to invest. And we are looking at upscaling over the years to a bigger number of the farmers. This year we are starting with about 35,000 farmers to cultivate maize, rice, and soybean. And we hope that next year we are going to upscale that one. There is a youth agriculture estate. Again, the agro age we know is changing very rapidly. Now most of our farmers are around 60 years and above, between 50 to 60 years and above. There's a need to motivate the young people to get into agriculture. It has its own advantages that it brings. The young people are more innovative and they have energy and they are able to produce productively. And so to achieve that, we are bringing in the youth agriculture estate, which would be another initiative that would put the young people to work in the agriculture estate, provide accommodation facilities, provide input support, and get them to cultivate either on block basis or on a large commercial basis, providing labor in the farm. So that is there. Then the school farm initiative. We have the school farm initiative in Ghana. We spent, in fact, last year we spent over 2.8 billion Ghana cedi on buying food for only secondary schools.
Wow.
The junior secondary schools have not come. And so it means that we are spending a lot to produce the food. Meanwhile, most of these secondary schools have large tracts of land that they are doing nothing with. And so we are looking at putting those lands under cultivation, cultivating beyond 5 acres to 10 acres, and producing specific food crops under the Feed Ghana program, and in some cases livestock, in some cases aquaculture, so that we would be able to meet the food needs and the commercial needs of agriculture.
All right. So these are very great initiatives you've mentioned. But
then maybe let me add another one. There is one we call the home gardening and urban agriculture initiative.
Right.
Again, we are also looking at incentivizing people, training them, equipping them, and getting them to grow backyard gardens. There are new technologies that allows for some vertical cultivation of crops, vegetables, and there's aquaponics, there's hydroponics. There are new technologies that you can use small spaces to grow large volumes of output, for production. So it's very crucial that we are able to upscale these things to increase our food production needs.
Okay. So I just have a follow-up question. I think per what you mentioned, it's more focused on us producing. So what happens after production? Because somewhere last year, I was in Sunyani and I saw a lot of cashew farms. So I wanted to get cashew nuts, like the packaged one, but it was so difficult to get it. And then when you go to the supermarket, cashew is very expensive to buy. But these people are just, so what I realized was they were just packaging, like just plucking the fruit and taking it to some Chinese warehouse to buy it. So my question is, if we are coming up with this initiative to produce, let's say, the fruits and then the grains, what is our plan to be able to package them or put them into like industrial means or commercialize them?
So the second leg of the agriculture for economic transformation is feed the industry. So the feed industry, going beyond production of the industrial crops, is looking at value addition. And so on my table, we have the Cashew Value Chain Development Initiative, which is mainly looking at adding value to the cashew. So it is not only going to be the cashew raw beans exported or sold to Chinese to export and go and process and bring it back at an expensive rate, but we ourselves depending on our local taste preferences, would add value to the cashew so that you can enjoy your cashew nuts at a cheaper price. But most importantly, one other aspect that has been ignored is the value addition using the cashew apple, cashew fruits. Are you aware that the cashew fruits can produce wine and various forms of drinks, that can make it more high yielding? But in Ghana, the fruits are mainly discarded.
Yeah.
They are not used for anything. And so government is looking at private investments or PPP arrangements that will add value or would process, these cashew fruits into other drinks and beverages. And so those are some of the things that we are looking at. And it's not only cashew, it's in cocoa. We have something in jute as well. We have something in cassava. The starchy foods are one of the global, tradable commodities that we are not really looking at. It's becoming increasingly important in industry. And so, for example, starch, the cassava starch. Cassava is one of the starchy crops that produces high starch.
Yeah.
And so we are looking at industrializing cassava production, processing for the starch, adding value so that we'll be able to meet the industrial needs of starch. And so there are many others. Then beyond the feeding the industry and the agro processing and the value addition, there is another aspect that has to do with agriculture infrastructure development. And you heard me talk about it, which we are looking at investing in agriculture infrastructure to make it easy, to make us competitive, to make us productive in our agriculture production.
All right, great. I wanted to ask concerning the infrastructure, but it looks like you've touched on it about how we are able to connect our roads to get farm produce into the cities easily. So this will be my last question. What is the long-term goal for your government in regards to building agribusiness in Ghana and even like with other countries in Africa? Because most of the times we have these conversations, we talk about it, but then after the conversations, it ends in the room with the conversation. What are the long-term plans? What are we going to see moving forward to be able to see that, okay, these things are being actualized?
So at the heart of every policy that His Excellency President John Dramani Mohammed's government is implementing is sustainability.
Yeah.
And your sustainability component must be strong to be able to pass the test of being accepted and adopted to run. And we are doing so mostly because we want it to have a long-term sustainable impact. And most of the challenges we have with policy inefficiency in Africa is that the lag period for the effects to be felt are quite long. And so, we are quick to change the policies. And so we are looking at policies that do not only present quicker results, but policies that are sustainable, that has an exponential effect on the lives of the people and create jobs, and not just any jobs, sustainable jobs. And so you can be rest assured that in the short to long term, our policies are policies that are going to yield so much in terms of economic stability and the creation of jobs. But most importantly, our policies are supposed to build an economic buffer such that when there are international shocks, we do not feel those international shocks. And so we are hopeful that in the long term, we would be able to achieve a full food secured economy, become food sufficient, and compete on the international market with value added commodities that are tradable, that would bring in more value and create more jobs for our young people.
All right. Thank you so much. Doc, before I leave you to go, this is my last request.
I thought you didn't want me to go.
I can't take your whole day. So, any last word? What would be your last message? Because now I am really passionate about us getting more young people into our agribusiness. A lot of young people don't find it interesting because they feel like the agribusiness is not lucrative. It doesn't look attractive to them. So everybody wants to be in the office. Everybody wants the flashy job. What would be your message to encourage young people into the agribusiness, and then also how we would be able to grow as a country regarding agriculture?
Well, I will repeat this, that there is no profitable investment venture than agri investment. Agri investment is the only investment that you are assured of over 100% returns when you put your money in there. It is only agriculture investment that gives you that. If you are able to mitigate your risk in terms of management, and you are able to mitigate your risk in terms of financial challenges or financial gaps, you are sure 100% of profitability. And so I've advised all young men that any investment that you want to do, if you are looking for a job, there's a job right there for you in agriculture. If you are looking for a place to put your money and invest, there's an investment opportunity right there for you in agriculture, because it never fails. And I've been encouraging young people to chart this path. And not only young people, capital holders, those who are holding finance and looking for opportunities for investment. Don't look beyond agriculture, particularly as Ghana and the sub-region holds huge unlimited potential for agriculture.
All right. Thank you so much. So it's been a wonderful conversation with Dr. Peter Boamah. He leads presidential.
Mention the last name, Otokunor.
He leads presidential initiatives in agriculture and agribusiness in Ghana, in the office of the president. Sorry, and I wish I could keep him here all day, but we have to let him go. So thank you so much, Doc.
Actually, I wanted to be kept.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.